Well, now I want to introduce Phil Edholm. Phil is chairman of the Pacific Coast Region's 2024 convention out in California. And he's come up with a unique program for it. While it's a physical convention, it's also going to be a virtual convention. And I'd like for Phil to tell you about it and how everybody on New Tracks can participate in it. So, Phil, welcome.
Thanks, Jim. I'm just getting something lined up here so I can talk at the same time as showing something. So I think a while back I talked about the convention we're doing out in California. And, it's a regional convention, but it's kind of unique because there hasn't been a convention in the area in 8 years. And there's some pretty amazing layouts. It's kind of as I got back into model railroading, I began to realize how many people actually that you hear about actually came from out here in California in this area. So it's pretty interesting. But what I'd like to do is talk to you a little bit about not the physical convention. I'm going to talk a little bit about that in a second. But first, what I wanted to do is talk about the virtual convention we're putting together. So the convention is actually the 24th to the 28th of April. And I'll talk a bit more about the convention out in California. But what we're doing is we're going to do on the 25th to the 27th, which is basically Thursday through Saturday. We're going to do a virtual convention. So I know some of you were able to go to the 2021 virtual national convention, NMRA convention. That was a convention that was, I think, had 650 attendees. And actually, people felt some ways like a better convention than a physical convention because you were able to go there without, getting on a plane and flying. There were people that were never able to go to conventions before that were able to go. In the 3 years since then, it's 2024 now, this has been 3 years, we really haven't seen something the same happen. And so what we're trying to do is really recreate a virtual convention that has a different feel than going to a Zoom meeting. So just kind of what we're going to put in from a content perspective is there's going to be a clinic track, which will have 15 of the clinics. There will be 45 clinics in total. There'll be 15 clinics that'll be in the clinic track. We're actually going to engage everyone that's going to the virtual convention as to which clinics they'd like to see in the virtual clinic room. So those will be presented in a room. They'll be done by video. John and Sydney Abiticola are producing that. They were very much in the folks who produced the 2021 convention. So you can kind of see the times there from an East Coast perspective. It starts fairly late in the morning and ends fairly late at night, but there's quite a bit of content that'll happen there. We'll also add in some special events. We're going to tour the contest room with a couple of our MMRs, and they'll talk about the models, especially the ones that are being judged, a bit about what their overall impression of the model is, what could be done to improve it, what are the things that could potentially be negatives for it. They're not going to actually do a judging there, but rather talk about it for folks to understand how to improve their models in a contest room. We have two live prototype tours. One is the Society for the Preservation of Carter Railroad Resources, which for those of you who are astute would realize that SPCRR stands for South Pacific Coast Railroad. The Carter brothers was actually a couple of brothers back in the late 1800s that built most of the narrow gauge cars out in California. They had a big facility. They built all the cars for the South Pacific Coast, the North Pacific Coast, the Nevada County narrow gauge, et cetera. So this is a group that's actually getting those cars and rebuilding them and restoring them. So we're going to have a shop tour and a yard tour, and there's some pretty cool things they're rebuilding. The other one we're going to do is Niles Canyon, which is I'll call it a tourist restoration railroad out here. They have some pretty amazing different equipment, rolling stock, et cetera, that they built together over about 35 years. We're going to do a yard tour and a shop tour there. One of these they have interested, they have the only Klaus Maffei engine, the German diesel hydraulic engines that were bought by the Denver Rio Grande and Southern Pacific. They actually have one of those they're rebuilding. So we actually get to see those kind of things in the shop tour. Really cool shop tours. What we're going to do is we're going to actually have someone go on those tours with a connection into the Zoom meeting And so you'll be able to actually, participate and go see the prototype tours that are in California, even if you're sitting in Virginia. Um, Jim and I have worked on doing a new tracks virtual train show. We're going to have 9 or 10 vendors that'll be basically doing some presentations during the breaks in the regular clinic tracks, but they'll also be available in breakout rooms. So one of the things that we found that in the convention we did in 21, what made it different was, if you think about this meeting, you come to this meeting, you sit there, you listen, you get done, and you go home. We created this concept that you moved around between spaces. So we're going to have a number of breakout rooms. And the idea is that there will be what we call a great hall. So this is what place you come to. It's a place where you just can hang out, you can talk to other people, and then from there you can go to essentially other rooms. So this begins to feel a lot more like a real convention than it does like a video meeting on Zoom. So for example, you can jump out of there into a clinic room breakout. You can come back here. There will be a number of special interest breakouts. These will be typically in the afternoon when the clinics aren't going. We have O scale, N scale. I think we're going to have the narrow gauge folks. We should have the SIG groups. There will be a SIG focus on for both the operations and the LD SIG. And then we'll have topical breakouts, dead rail, California railroads, women in model railroading, or your interest. You can just bring something up. We'll survey everyone who's coming. And then finally, we'll have this New Tracks virtual train show vendor focus, which will happen associated with the clinics, but will be essentially a separate thing. And then on Saturday, we're actually going to have a New Tracks focus in the afternoon, where Jim and some of the New Tracks presenters are going to do some real focused, cool New Tracks content. So it's going to be a pretty exciting time. And basically, if you look at it, what we've tried to do is two things. We try to take as much as we can of a physical convention and replicate it virtually. So we've got, a part of the clinics. We have the prototype tours, kind of you can ride along with them. We've got the contest room where you can check it out. We have the virtual train show, which will be also shown in the in-person convention. There are a number of layouts on tour are available on video. That's one of the things you lose. We're trying to look at doing some operating sessions with the Silicon Valley lines, but you really don't get operating sessions. You really don't get the non-rail activities because obviously you're probably not bringing your spouse. You won't be a part of the vendor and swap meet area. You won't get the banquet and breakfast. But the really good news is you can meet people and be in the environment. So we think it's a great way to actually get out and do something without leaving your house. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to start, kind of bring us the next thing, which is if you're interested, we got a new track special. So if you use the code when you register and just go here to the registration, you can use the QR code. You get a $10 discount. So you get it for $20. So I think this is the interesting thing is for $20, you kind of ask yourself what you get for $20 in the modeling world. It's not very much. They get 3 days of being able to participate. But the really interesting thing is we're already over 50 attendees. If we can get this up to 200 or 300 attendees, I think you create a very different kind of event. And that was what we created in that, in the convention that we had back in 21 was people actually would feel like they were going somewhere. You're not going to watch somebody do a presentation on a video. You're going somewhere, you're moving around, you're meeting new people, you're talking, you're interacting and doing things. And we think that's, really important to go do this. I guess I'm going to go ahead and stop for a second. Any questions or comments from anyone on that? Did anyone go to the 2021 convention and kind of comment on it?
I did, Phil, and it was great. So being over here on the East Coast, the only problem was the last one ends at 9:40, and that's past my bedtime.
Yeah, I know you'll probably have to miss a few of those and late in the evenings, but you can get everything else.
Well, for the Bay area convention, those the clinics were recorded.
Yeah.
And the
And-
good thing about that was if you wanted to go to a breakout room, instead of going to a clinic, you could go to the breakout room. And when the breakout room left, later on, you could go see the clinic. And I hope
and
that happens
and
again.
and all the clinics will be recorded and will be available during the convention and probably for some period of time after, weeks kind of thing.
Yeah.
But
And
yeah,
all the ones that we're doing for the train show, they'll also run on new tracks, but they'll run on new tracks later this year, much later this year.
Yep.
I think it's a great opportunity. I attended the first one, and I had a great time. I didn't think I would when I signed up, but it really turned out great.
Yeah, it's this whole thing of, you go into this great hall and there's 15, like just like we're sitting right now.
Yep.
And if you look at this in gallery view, and you can even throw the Pat, if you go to gallery view on your computer, you see everybody. So if you imagine this is the great hall and we're having a conversation just like we were having earlier before we started our meeting, and somebody says, hey, well, what about 3D printing? Somebody else says something else. And they say, hey, let's have a conversation. You can go to a breakout room and go have a conversation about it with 5 people.
Yeah.
And so it's no different than, being in a space where you talk to people, you interact with people, you can group with people. If there's a breakout room with Dennis and you saw Dennis's models and you're interested in talking to him about something, you can go jump in the room with Dennis and talk to him. If there's going to be one on dead rail, he's had some conversations on dead rail, and there'll be some interesting things on dead rail. So it's that idea that you're not going to watch something, you're going to participate. And I for twice for $20, what we're really trying to do is we're trying to make this inexpensive enough that virtually anybody could say, hey, it's worth doing. So anyway, any other comments or questions?
Well, from my standpoint, doing the train show part of this, I think it's important for the people that are going to be the presenters on the train show, representing their companies, to get the word out to their companies, so forth. They're going to have each one of these companies, and I'm really proud of all of them for wanting to do this, and thank them so much. But each one of them is going to get 15 minutes to have a video that'll be shown during the physical convention and the virtual convention. And then they each one get a breakout room for an hour. So they've got, in effect, an hour and 15 minutes to promote their company and promote their products and talk to the other people about whatever questions they have on the instructions, on how to build them, on what they should do or how they should do it. So to me, it gives them a real opportunity. And that's why I think that we didn't have any trouble filling up the slots that were available for the convention. Because the companies recognized the value. And I'm sorry that we couldn't get more companies to do this, because I think that the way that Phil has structured it, he has about as many companies as possible, given the time, and given each one of the companies as much capabilities as he possibly could. So I really appreciate the convention wanting to do this and being able, frankly, to showcase some of the companies that wouldn't be at the convention. I think there's only 2 companies, if I remember right, that are California based out of the ones that we have in the virtual train show. Yep. So all of them are from other parts that they're probably not going to travel to the convention to buy a table. So this way they get, in effect, an hour and 15-minute visibility at this convention in California, where they probably have customers, but they're not going to go and see them, except virtual.
No, exactly. So one thing I'd encourage you is, think about it. If you think it's interesting, don't just sign up to come. Talk to your friends.
Absolutely.
I mean, that's the thing. The thing that's interesting is, the thing to think about, it's not like coming to this meeting. This meeting is basically an input meeting for almost everybody. You're just getting input. Going to this convention, you can get there and you can talk to people. You can have interaction. You can come as a group and talk. You can, go somewhere to one of the breakouts of the group and have an interaction. If you have a question of someone about a specific topic. So I think the idea of having people there and having this community is something that is really important to try to see if we can recreate um, beyond what we did in 21, where it was only virtual. Can you do it? The other thing we are trying to do is break down the wall between the physical and virtual convention. So, for example, the train show stuff will be in the virtual clinic room. The virtual clinics will be over. What we're doing with the contests and with the prototypes is to try to make more of the the physical convention come through to people virtually. But I'm just going to close with just a quick pitch that if in fact you are in any way thinking about traveling, it's going to be well worth coming to California. If you're thinking about going to a convention other than the national convention, or thought about doing something as a vacation, we're right in the middle of Silicon Valley. We literally are in what's called the Golden Triangle of Silicon Valley. But we got $139 room rate, which I can guarantee you, if you come to Silicon Valley in 4 years, you're going to be paying over $200 a night per room, if not $250. Rates are going to go up. If you come, you get to take advantage of all the things we're doing. And, we do have some amazing layout tours. We're up to about 40 layouts that are on tour. We have different tour days. And, as I think I've talked about some of you before, for example, Jack Burgess's layout, the Yosemite Valley, he's going to be taking it out in October. So that's almost, I would say, on the same level almost as John Allen in terms of the repute of kind of a real revolutionary layout. So I think, coming and seeing the layouts, going to the prototype tours would be great. So I'd just strongly encourage you, if you saw that QR code there, use the QR code, click on it. I'll put the link also in the chat. But just take a shot of that QR code and you can go there and sign up. And like I said, for $20, I don't think it's a lot. And if you get some friends to go, I think it could be a lot of fun. It's actually something you can do without getting on an airplane or driving in a car. Anyway, thank you, Jim. I'll throw it back to you.